Welcome to the Bloom Effect. I'm your host, Cassie Kellner, former chairside assistant turned team coach and founder of Everbloom. This podcast is all about the real stuff, honest combos, leadership lessons, and the heart behind thriving orthodontic teams. If you're ready to grow, lead, and bloom, let's dive in. Welcome to the Bloom Effect. I'm your host, Cassie Kellner, and today I have the most incredible guest, and I don't typically do this. Dr. Emily Watson, welcome. Emily, I don't typically do this, but I wrote an intro for you because I am so, Emily, I am so inspired by you. I feel all the feels right now. I can't even, I'm so excited for this podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Aw, Cassie, thank you so much for having me. And honestly, I feel the same way about you and the work that you do, the help that you've given us. It's so amazing. And so I'm so thankful to be on here with you today.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so here we go. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
This is what I wrote. You haven't heard this. I'm really excited for this. Okay, here we go. Emily is an orthodontist in Indiana with a booming practice and a powerful message to share with the world. We first met and worked together last year, and I have tears in my eyes. I was instantly inspired by her leadership, her vision, and her heart she pours into her work. Dr. Emily Watson is the daughter of T and Key Cambodian refugees, the mother of two, and the author of an incredible story that weaves together her parents' journey and her own. Emily's story is a perfect example of why I started this podcast, to highlight resilience, gratitude, and the courage it takes to show up every day in life and in leadership. I wrote this from the bottom of my heart. Dr. Emily Taing Watson, welcome to the Bloom Effect.
Thanks, Cassie. I hope I don't cry during this whole episode too.
I'm so excited to share your message and your story with the world. And Emily, you write this in the book, actually, at the very end, you write, I hope that this book resonates with others and it can make you, really think about your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I thought about my journey the entire time, and my journey is nothing like your journey. But I just, okay. So let's start from the very beginning, because people are like, "What are you talking about, Cassie?" Emily, you wrote a book called Roots of Resilience, Lessons in Courage, Family, and the Power of Showing Up Every Day. And we were working together. I'm going to tell our backstory. We were working together, and you said, we were talking about marketing or Canva. I'm like a nerd when it comes to that stuff, but I'm not a marketing guru. I'll throw it out there right now. But I love design and creativity, and we were just chatting about it. And you said, so I wrote a book. And I was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean you wrote a book? And then you told me what this book is about. And your book is about family and leadership and your parents' stories of being Cambodian refugees and growing up as kind of first generation, and your life and your childhood and your journey in orthodontics and all the things. And you sent it over to me. By the way, just so everyone knows, and we're going to get to this later, the book comes out today officially. So congratulations. And you wrote this book, you sent it over, and I begged you to be on my podcast. Like, please do this with me. Everyone needs to hear this story. And so I'd love for you to explain why. Like, why did you decide to put it all on paper?
Yeah.
And why now? I love it so much. Why, Emily? Why did you decide to do it?
Yeah. So as you know, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but my parents' story is so unique. And I think growing up, I didn't realize the impact that, you know, their story could have on helping other people. And it's always been everyone that I've met that has talked to my parents has always said, you should write a story about their story because it's so amazing. And it's always been in the back of my head that it's been a dream of mine to put this down on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started to do that, it turned into, you know, I share all the time these little lessons that I remember from my childhood, and they all trace back to my parents and what I saw when I was young, things that they told me, and it's just shaped every part of my life today. That it became a story of their lessons that they taught me and lessons that are great for everyone, and how that weaves into every single part of my life today.
Emily, it's such a powerful story. It's such a powerful story. I'm so glad. I mean, so many of us have stories, you know, and for you to be able to write this, share this story with your children and your husband and your family and your parents and oh gosh, so many chapters I want to touch on. I can't. I don't even. This is going to be the longest podcast, and it's going to be. I truly. Okay, so your father, do you want to give people a snippet of your parents' journey?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
So my parents again are they're Chinese and Cambodian, and in the 70s, there was always kind of civil unrest in Cambodia. So my mother remembers, you know, she had to stop going to school when she was in second grade because there were, you know, people fighting and bombs and shooting and things like that. And so starting then, there was a civil war back in Cambodia. And in 1975, there was a dictator. His name was Pol Pot. And he was in charge of this terrible regime called the Khmer Rouge, who essentially took the entire country over and, you know, killed millions of Cambodia's anyone that had an education, doctors, lawyers, you know, religious, anyone who was religious. And they wanted to just sort of force everyone to work kind of, you know, in a, I don't know how to say this, but basically everyone was working, they said, for their own good, like as one community. But really, that was splitting families apart and, you know, forced labor with not enough food to eat. And my parents ended up surviving that when Vietnam invaded Cambodia in 1979. And they went to a refugee camp, and they ended up there for a while, and they ended up being able to come to the United States in 1979, sponsored by a church in Bern, Indiana. And my mom was only 20 at the time, and left her mom and all of her family. And my dad was 25. So they had had an arranged marriage. They were not married for very long. And then they were able to escape through a minefield with a guide and make it to the refugee camp, and then eventually got sponsored, which is just another incredible story as well.
Emily, when I cannot even tell you the feelings I had while I read this book and how you beautifully weave in your story as well, and your journey. So your father had really powerful words in this book, and he said something that really, really stuck with me. He would keep telling you, you know, over, and I don't know if he still says this as an adult, but he would say, "It's a miracle we're here."
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it was like I highlighted it. He says it many times to you, probably throughout your entire life, I can imagine. Um, how did that shape your mindset? And you talk about in the book where you didn't fully understand
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yes.
And maybe the reality is those of us, my grandparents were immigrants, not my parents. So, I'm a bit removed from that, but will we really truly understand at our core, but you've done such incredible research. How did your upbringing and your family, how did that all shape your current mindset and how you lead today?
Yeah. So my dad, it's a miracle that we're here, Emily. My dad said that to me when I was asking specifically how he felt when they had no idea where my grandma, my mom's mom, was. And they thought they found her, and my dad traveled back to Cambodia to verify that it was my grandma and aunt and uncle. And I asked him, how did you feel when you saw her? Because it had been, they left in 79, and my mom didn't see her mom until 1990 or 91. And that's when my dad said, it's a miracle that we're here. And he would also, when I was in the donut shop growing up, someone would come in and they would ask him, how are you doing today, T? And my dad would always say, lucky to be alive, sir, lucky to be alive. And I never, they just always told me you should be so grateful to live here in the United States, the freedoms that we have, the education that you have for free, which is not the norm in the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just say, don't take that for granted. And I think at growing up, I heard the same things, right? So it didn't resonate with me at the time because I grew up in the States. And as I got older, and have a family of my own and a practice, just reflecting on that statement, it's like anything that could happen in a day, or any hardships, if you want to call them hardships, compared to my
Mm-hmm.
parents that I've ever had. They've just always told me that someone else would love to have your life, and you
Yes.
just have to be grateful. So I feel like when you wake up, my dad saying, I'm lucky to be alive, he really meant that, because
Yeah.
there were times when they literally thought they were going to die multiple times. And
Yeah.
so to take that type of mindset, and when you wake up every day and you're just like, I'm so lucky I'm here, it makes your whole day shift. Because while you may face hardships, I always just look back and go, well, what did my parents go through? Like, this is nothing compared to that. So I think it just makes you more resilient.
Yeah. And perspective, right? I
Yeah.
mean, are you kidding? Truly, I want to go back to the donut shop. You talk about this throughout the entire book. It's a massive piece. And I learned a lot, about, it's very typical for Cambodians to own donut shops. I had an aha moment of my childhood, and I don't know if they were Cambodian, but a family who owned a donut shop in my hometown. And it made so much sense to me. The fact that your parents could come here, flee, be sponsored, rely heavily on their faith and these individuals in Indiana,
Mhm.
and then own work at the donut shop, own the building, like truly, like the layers, right, of this story and how powerful it is. And you talk a lot about your childhood, Emily, which I think is really, really important here. I remember a sentence that you said, and I'm not. This is not exactly what you said. I'm paraphrasing here, but you said like you would sleep on the flour bags
Yeah.
in the back of the donut shop,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
You say many times your parents worked 365 days a year.
Mhm.
And growing up, there was some resentment there that you
Mhm.
had,
Mhm.
because you didn't fully understand, can you speak to that?
Yeah.
And now as an adult and a mother and,
Yes.
but looking back at that childhood in that donut shop.
Mhm. Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, let me say that I love that my parents owned a donut shop because I love donuts.
Yeah.
And a fun little story, my dad, when I was in second grade, he would pack a bag full of donut holes for me. And in class, I would go into the closet to get something and I just like stuff my face full of these donut holes and then go back to class. Um, but so I do love the donuts. That was
Yeah.
certainly a perk. But yeah, growing up every day, my dad had the same routine. So he would wake up at 3 o'clock or 3:30 in the morning. He would go to the donut shop, which is only about 5 minutes from our house. He would work until 11 or 12, come home, eat lunch, take a nap, and then at about 3:30 he would wake up again and go back to the donut shop until about 7 or so. And then he would come home and we would eat dinner and he would do that all over again. And so my mom was busy, taking care of us and, making sure we were fed all day. And she was helping him at the donut shop and, buying supplies that they needed. And also, they were taking care of their parents at the time. And so there would be times where, yeah, we would be sleepy and my dad would lay an apron on a flour sack and we'd just lay there in the back, waiting for them to get done. And growing up, I first realized that I was different than my friends when I went to school. And one of my friends had asked me, they came over to our house, and one of my friends had asked me, what is this spoon? Like that looks so weird. It was like a soup spoon that
Mhm.
if you go eat noodles or something. And that was one of the first moments that I realized like I'm different than everyone else. And my parents were traditional and so very, typical, strict Asian parents. And so things that I was allowed to do and things that my friends were allowed to do were very different. And growing up, obviously, you do want to just fit in,
Of
and
course.
um, it was hard. And I did wish, I remember a time when I asked my dad, when can we go on vacation? All of my friends are going on vacation. When can we go? And my dad said, do you want food to eat and a home to live in and clothes to wear, or do you want to go somewhere for a week? And I'm like, well, I'd really just like to go somewhere for a week. But that was, he always said, we have to work so that we can send you to school and, provide for you. And we're not going to go into debt and take out a loan so that we can go somewhere for a week. And I think now my dad also told me growing up, we do not want you to do this. You need to go to school, go until you can't go anymore, get an education, and then you don't have to work 7 days a week in a donut shop. This is not the life that we want for you. And so, that I always kind of had that in the back of my mind that my dad said, do something that can help people. My mom
Yeah.
said that she always wanted to be a doctor growing up. And if she could have, she would have gone to school for as long as she could. So I was so lucky that I had that support. And even though, I was in school for so many years after high school, for them to have them believe in me and tell me, no, you can do this. Keep going, don't worry about the debt that you're accruing. It's going to be okay. I mean, that was huge. And it just makes me now, when I'm able to, my husband just said to me yesterday, he said, "You're living out all of the things that you wanted and wished that you could do when you were younger." And yeah, that's so
Oh,
true. Like I make it a point to, when my kids are home for break, my office it's open but not open. Like I'm not here.
yeah.
And so just trying to really enjoy the times that we have and places that I get to take them to, that, yeah, I do wish we could have done and enjoyed when I was younger.
Yeah. Yeah. As mothers and parents, I have a very, very different story than you, Emily, but I grew up with a single mother who worked two jobs and worked very, very hard. She was first generation here. My grandparents are from France. And it's really interesting as a mother now. I wanted all the things that we just genuinely couldn't afford because she
Mhm.
was just trying to make ends meet, without us really even knowing. Like, it's not like the those were big conversations in our home. I just knew, like you, that I was different than my friends. I couldn't go to sleepaway camp because
Mhm.
we couldn't afford it.
Mhm.
I there was a huge, in 8th grade, I remember, I grew up in Northern California, but there was a Washington D.C. trip that everybody got to go to, and I did not because,
Aw.
again, we couldn't afford it. It was just our stories are different in different ways, but I remember being like, this feeling I feel now as a 13-year-old girl not being able to join and go on this trip that
Mhm.
everyone talked about when they got home,
No.
it won't be the case for my children
Yeah.
because of financial, things that will occur in adulthood. And
Right.
so I had these dreams of doing something more, being more, and
Yeah.
so did my mother for me,
Right. Yes.
and so I again, I learned resilience in a very different way than you.
Mhm.
uh but it's really interesting, that it shows up in adulthood and in motherhood.
Yes.
I look at my children, and I don't know if you can relate to this. I am sure you can, at certain ages. And I go, wow,
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't experience what you're experiencing right now. And I almost get to relive it through just, and you talk about this a lot, through gratitude of
Mhm.
like, I'm so grateful you get to experience this.
Yes. Yes.
It's again, I this book was so emotional to me, and I said this to you, it showed up in so many different ways. Again, my story's very, very different than yours, but
Mhm.
the reflection that you do, the hardships our parents go through,
Mhm.
the goals that we set for ourselves, and also just simply watching your parents go through all of this, in this resilience and courage that they have, that really innately sets into us without them even teaching us things sometimes,
Yeah.
because you're just simply watching how hard they work,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
And
know
yeah, something that there's so many, my parents own their own business. They encouraged me to own my own business. And the things that they have to deal with owning a donut shop compared to
yeah.
me owning an orthodontic practice, it's again, the trials and the hardships of owning an orthodontic practice are nothing compared to owning a donut shop. And something that I've reflected on in our huddle is I don't know. I need to ask my dad this, but I don't know. Actually, I did ask him, how can one person work every single day? We, we're so lucky in the dental field. Most offices
Yes.
only see patients 3 or 4 days a week. And the weeks that I have, I mean, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of cases and things, but the days that I have a full week, which is a 4-day week, it's a lot for me.
Yeah.
And I kind of joke about it with my parents because my dad worked 7 days a week. And I say, I don't know how, even when he was sick, how do you stay motivated to, there's no end in sight. It's not like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, fall break's coming up, Christmas break's coming up, and I'll get a little break. There was no break. Like my dad
Yeah.
was in the donut shop on Christmas, working in the morning on Christmas and any holiday. And he just said to me, he was grateful that he got the opportunity to work because in Cambodia, when you have someone telling you what to do and you're starving and you can't make money, he was just so grateful for that opportunity to be able to provide for his family that he's like, it's just what we did, it's how we survived. And I just think that's so amazing because I look at that on the days when I want to complain about my fourth day in the office. And I'm like, I just say to myself, I can't complain. There's nothing I can complain about. My dad would have he worked 7 days a week, much longer hours than I did. So I think again, it just shifts your whole mindset and how
Yeah.
you take on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So gratitude was a really big theme in this book,
Mm-hmm.
throughout the entire book. Uh, and you talk a lot about how you lead.
Mm-hmm.
And because of your upbringing, your parents' story, uh, and so I want to know, how did you bring that, your story, the gratitude, into your leadership style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Into your practice culture, every day? Like, how did this trickle into the rest of your life and being an orthodontist, a leader, a practice owner? How is gratitude there for you?
Yeah, it's so huge. It is, I feel like gratitude and service are kind of
Mm,
tied together. And I saw firsthand growing up, my dad, you know, he served his employees and the customers at the donut shop so well. I remember I would be there in the morning, and as someone was, closing the door to their car and walking up to the donut shop, my dad would say, he'll take a large coffee with, cream and 3 sugars. And when that person came up to the counter, their coffee would be there. He'd have their donut order memorized. I mean, it was just really incredible. And um, I think service and gratitude, again, I talk a lot to our group about, we're here to serve the patients and families that trust us with their care. And that's a big responsibility. And, they're providing essentially for each of my staff members
mm,
and our families. And it's so important that we deliver, we always say, we talk about, there's this Disney book we read as a group, but on stage and backstage. And, we have to be on stage because this kind of sounds harsh, but at the end of the day, our patients and families are paying us for a service, and they quite frankly don't care, what you may or may not have going on in your life because
Yeah.
they're paying you.
Yes.
And I think that, again, the perspective of gratitude. And my consultant, Vicky, actually shared this a while ago, and it was a good one. And it was that your problems are still going to be your problems, at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. So leave your problems at the door when you come to work, and they'll still be there waiting for you. Um, and honestly, there have been times recently where, life is not perfect, and I have had things too. And I told my staff, I think about that. And I actually enjoy the fact that I get to come to work and do something that I love and take my mind off of the problems I'm having. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's a wonderful thing. You get to laugh and enjoy your, colleagues, and it takes your mind off of it. So I think, service, keeping that in mind that we're serving our patients and families and one another, and then being grateful that we get that opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That is so huge.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think in ortho practices, we're running a mile a minute. Like we know this, right? The minute that first patient walks in, depending on how many chairs you have, like you're going, like you're firing at all cylinders, like it's real. And I think sometimes in the ortho world, we forget that there's a 10, 11, 12-year-old behind this. We're just like focused on archware sequence and debonds and bondings and all. And sometimes we're moving so quickly, we forget that there are these little humans
Yes.
behind what we're doing, and we are a huge part of their day.
Mhm.
And sometimes those humans are going through middle school things
Yeah.
that can feel so monumental to them
Yes.
that then we become their safe space
Right.
during, this time of the day that they get to spend with
Right.
us.
Yes.
And so I think, it's all kind of like this full circle moment of what you're saying is everyone is going to have problems and issues and all of the things. And also, people are allowed to have bad days. Like you're
Sure.
allowed to have a day where you come in and you're like, listen, I'm really struggling, or,
Yeah.
a family member is sick, or, and I think that's the beauty, in my opinion, of small teams like this, where
Yeah.
you can go, listen, we have your back, But to
Yeah.
your point, you also get to come in and have lunch together and laugh and talk about really ridiculous things and
Yeah.
things that people did on the weekend, and and have this like true connection with your team.
Yes.
I think is also incredibly important. And you talk about gratitude so much. I'm gonna pivot here, and we didn't even talk about this, but I have to share it. There's something that we're gonna do at the end, which is like fun little rapid fire stuff. But I asked you initially in our pre-podcast conversation and then emails, what is one word that would describe your leadership style? And the response, okay, so you decided, I'm going to actually send this out to my team,
I
right?
had never thought of that before, ever.
Right?
And I'm like,
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know.
So you sent that out to your team. You were like, I don't even really even know how to answer this. You sent it out to your team. And you said, how would you describe my leadership style? Which I loved. Okay, this is what some of your team members said. And they just sent one word. Some of them sent really powerful messages to
Mhm.
you. But they're like, inspirational, empowering, strengths, empathy, coaching, knowing our strengths, the mindset of chasing progress over perfection, visionary, grateful. They just kept going.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel when you got that back?
Oh my gosh. I was teary eyed because
Yeah.
to backtrack 1 second about our team, my team is close enough now that like you had said, we are allowed bad days. I don't expect
Yeah.
everyone to come in and, every single day, maybe 99% of the time,
Yes.
not
Yes.
100%.
You
Um,
still have a business to run here.
but we do have those conversations, about, I've shared with myself, like, this is a rough time right now. This is what I'm
Yep.
going through at Huddle. Um, so, say a prayer for me. Um,
Mhm.
Thank you guys in advance for helping me. And they've had things go on in their life. And it's like, this is what's going on at Huddle. But at 8:30 when we start seeing patients, we're back on stage. So I think it's important to also allow the space and recognize that, yeah, we are human and we are going to have problems. But I think the difference is that with our group, we're so supportive of each other and have built that type of culture. So that's my backtrack.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, I was teary eyed when they said those things because I had never thought of it. And I honestly, looking back, I'm just so grateful for the team that I have now. And I tell them this. And as a business owner, as a leader, 11 years in now, and there were times where I didn't know that I would get to this point. And I always say, like, all of the hard things that you go through, it makes you so much more grateful when you end, like, I had to go through that. Otherwise, I
Mhm.
would have taken the team that I have now for granted.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I mean, I was just so blown away and just grateful for all of them.
Okay, I'm going to read one. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay. You sent this to me and ugh. Okay, so this person wrote, encouraging. You make an effort to get to know each of our strengths and encourage us to draw on them to grow professionally. You also encourage each of us through example, our core values, dedication, professionalism, mindset, extending grace, striving for excellence, sharing knowledge, patience, in parentheses, with ourselves and others, respect and faith. It's very rare. We are blessed. Maybe it would be better to describe your leading style as rare. Emily,
I know. That was
I'm teary. It's so powerful, and because you're sending me these and I had read the book, it was just like, I have these moments of, I'm so grateful that we have crossed paths and I know this story, and I know your team, and I get to spend one-on-ones with your team sometimes. And I'm it's so absolutely incredible what you have done. I want to talk to the book a little bit more. I want to read something from the book that was really, really powerful to me. Hold on, let me go find it. I have it here. There's 3 different highlights. The whole thing's pretty much highlighted. Okay, hold on. Let's see. This is in chapter 2. Okay. You say, anytime little or big difficulties happen in my life, whenever I'm facing something tough, I lean into my faith and gratitude and the lessons I learned from my parents. My mom instilled in us the idea that God saved my parents from the war for a reason. I have strong faith that whatever happens, happens for a reason. Therefore, I try to maintain my sense of gratitude. I also, in a practical sense, ask myself if in any negative situation, is there something that I can change? If I can, then I do so. And if I can't, I let it go. This helps me shed any unnecessary stresses. There is enough to worry about in the things we can control. So I leave the things I can't control up to God.
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerful because a lot of times as a business owner, you can focus so much on the negative.
Yes.
And there is so much that you can't control.
Mm-hmm.
And as an orthodontist and a mindset that literally works in millimeters,
Yes.
and the things that you can control and the things that you can shift in the mouth, you have full control over that. If
Yes.
something turns left in the matter of 6 to 8 weeks when they come back, you can
Right.
control it and you can move it back,
Yeah.
um, this was super powerful to read, and to I hope that people, when they read this, that they read this, is there something that I can
Yes.
change?
Right. Yes. And that came out of years and years and years of focusing, when we talk about the early days and all of the turnover in the staff and
Mhm, mhm,
just so many things that were out of my control. And
mhm.
I would literally let a decision or a situation that I didn't have any part of ruin my entire weekend
Yeah,
because I was just focused on whatever that problem was. And again, back to my consultant and coach, Vicky,
yes.
she would say, she'd always say things like, there's nothing you can do about this. Go enjoy your weekend with your family. And I'm like, how can I enjoy my weekend with my family? This person just quit. What are we going to do? And just down this rabbit hole of I could literally spend my whole Friday, Saturday, Sunday just ruminating on this one thing. And I
Yeah,
couldn't do anything about it.
right.
And I think, I don't know exactly when that changed, but it was like, well, the times when I felt the best was when I could do something.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if I can't do anything, I just ask myself that. Someone makes a decision. Can I do anything to change their mind? No. Okay, on to the next thing.
Yeah,
What's something that I can get done? So
right.
I think that's so huge because it lets you shed unwanted stress and these big feelings that are not good for you.
Yeah,
And just again do something that you want to do, be able to enjoy your family. I know that's hard to do when things are tough, but I think that question helps so much. Can I change anything? Yes or no? And then go from there.
yeah, absolutely. It's it's so interesting how just as humans, right? We tend to harp and we
Mhm.
take it all in, and we're like, and then you look back years from now and you're like, why did I focus so much on this one tiny thing or this big thing, right? And
Mhm.
instead of like putting my boots on and go and getting in there and saying, okay, these are the things that I have control of, these are the things that I can actually fix, we
Yeah.
focus so much on the actual thing that happened to us.
Yeah.
I it's really powerful. That sentence is just so powerful in the book. um
And
I
Cassie, the thing is that the thing that you have most control over is yourself. And
Yes.
when my team says, their quotes on what my leadership style was, that was A huge point for me was when I realized that I can only control myself
Mm-hmm.
and how I show up every day, and control the way my morning goes when I wake up. That has allowed me to show up for my team consistently. I just said to I mean, there was kind of this whole thing in 2018 with a remodel and a lawsuit, and everything was like out of my control. And I said to my husband, like, I have to do something about this. And that's when I started my, 4:30 a.m. waking up routine, because I needed to start my day off knowing that something went right that day.
Yes. Right?
I needed that win. And then I just told myself, like, I know this is going on in my life, but my team doesn't need me to come in grumpy and complaining. They need me to show up and be an example. Otherwise, I can't ask them to do the same thing.
Exactly. Exactly, Emily. It's I see it often where they're like, you can tell somebody is miserable in their position if they're the owner, and the rest of the team is miserable. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's start with some self-reflection. There is no magic wand. You actually really do have to do the work. You have to make the changes.
Mhm.
And you did at that 4:30 moment, right? Where you went, okay, here's the shift. Here's something I have control over.
Right.
I'm going to make the shift now,
Yeah. Mhm.
I think one of the things we spoke about this even before I read the book, is there's so many lessons in here for everyone. And something that I found to be a lesson, and especially for this industry, is, and all industries honestly, is that first generation professional that
Mhm.
comes out of families of parents who are immigrants.
Mhm.
And in the orthodontic industry, there's so many that resonate with you, Emily,
Mhm.
that were the first to go to school, were the first to graduate from college, that have these degrees, that run these businesses because their parents who were immigrants came here to give these children a better life. I guess it was so powerful for me to know our industry, to know you, to know your story, and that you're sharing this with so many other first generation professionals who can resonate with that.
Yeah. Mhm.
Truly. I mean, I can think of so many orthodontists that I know that probably have such similar stories to you, but that haven't done what you've done and put it in on paper and written this beautifully written book,
Yeah,
you know?
I love hearing um I love hearing other people's stories, and
Me too.
I love the idea of when I was younger feeling like the things that made me different were bad, or like I wasn't enough because I was different. And as an adult, going, no, it's those exact things that make you exactly who you are today. And it's those, like I tell my team and the strengths work, it's all of I don't want everybody to be the same, because we wouldn't be able to accomplish what we do if everyone was exactly the same. I need
Yeah.
everyone to be a little bit different and understand what those differences are, and then use those strengths productively to serve our patients and families and each other. And I just love that everyone has a unique story, everyone has unique strengths. And I love how it makes sense when you look at someone's strengths, oh, that's why that person is this
Yes.
way. It's great. I love it.
Yes. So, do you have a story or a lesson that you hope listeners remember most even for first generation professionals or women who are balancing all of the things, right? Because we are a totally different animal. We're balancing motherhood and business ownership and being a wife and being present for our teams and our family. Um, do you have a story or a lesson that you hope listeners take in the most?
I think maybe just like little one-liners.
Yes.
So I think that as a wife, as a mom, business owner, there's so many things that you have to juggle. And I think that one thing I will say is, have a coach. You have
Yes.
to you have to show up for your team, but you need to have someone like my coach and consultant Vicky, who's helped me
Yeah.
so much through the
Vicky
year.
Newell, shout out.
Shout out to
Shout
Vicky.
out.
She helped me realize that my strengths, which I thought were, softer or like weaker strengths, how to use those to be an effective leader. That was so huge for me. So have a coach. Two, I would say Vicky's group also helps me handle the HR part of my
Mm,
practice. You can't do everything,
mm-hmm.
and you have to have the right people on your team and trust that they can do, HR, I always say, it's not my strength. And I even tell my team, I told them the other day, my consistency strength makes me wild. I mean, it just makes me crazy. And I tell them, I'm like, look, I have consistency. There's no wiggle room.
Mm,
I don't know how many, I can count on my hand the number of days that I've missed in the 11 years that I've been practicing.
yeah.
And I told my team, I'm like, look, if you want something, don't ask me, because my consistency is gonna say no. You have a better chance of asking my office manager, Manon, than you do me. And it's not, it has, and honestly, it's not my strength, right? So it takes away from my energy, because my energy is best spent figuring out, how I can best lead you and setting the tone in the office. It's not figuring out what to do if someone can't make it into work, or, that sort of thing. So
Yes.
have a coach, have someone handle your HR, ask yourself what things you can change or not change, and then have faith that it'll work out, because
Yeah.
I think there's so much time and energy spent in trying to, like in the past, hold on to people just because you were scared of losing them, or holding on, the fear of having to retrain someone. And
Mm,
now I say, all of the people, and I can't even tell you how many, all of the people that had to leave, it happened so that I could have the group that I have now.
yes.
And so just have, even in the trenches, just have faith that whatever, I would always say, Doris, my treatment coordinator, who we go to the same church, and there would be times where I would be, crying, just like no control, and just saying like, help me make it through this, and know that this is happening for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easy to look back and find that perspective, but during the time, it's very
Oh,
difficult.
very.
Yeah. And just try to enjoy, as a wife, as a mom, you have to dig. Something that I'm struggling with still is, turning it off when I could work for hours and hours in front of my computer, and telling myself, that it's still going to be there.
Yeah. Emily, you and me both.
Yeah.
I find myself and then I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
What am I doing? This is going to be here on Monday morning when my children are on the bus and at
Right.
school. And, like, what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
I think, we have to check in with ourselves too
Hmm.
and go and like this whole word balance.
I don't think it's actually, I don't think balance truly exists. I really don't. It's just, I mean, there's just always going to be something to do. And I
Agree.
think a bigger word that is best for women and mothers is probably boundaries instead of
Mm,
and you know setting up that boundary of when I try to make it a point when I know that I'm going to be with my kids, you know, keep the phone on, do not disturb, don't look at it, be present and answer the questions that they have. Um, yeah, have those boundaries of time where you have specific time. Only a lot, something that I've been doing recently is if I have to get something done for work, I'll give myself 30
yeah.
minutes and set 30 minutes and work on it. And then after the 30 minutes, that's it. Put it away.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love, oh gosh, we could have a whole podcast about boundaries. But yeah, setting boundaries. I also, balance. It's almost like a trigger because I'm like, I'm not balancing very well, you know?
But I feel like that's perspective too, because I look at balance, again, back to my dad. Did my dad have any balance in his life working 7 days a week? No. So I always say, my dad missed out on so many things.
Yeah.
You know, every volleyball game I ever played, my dad wasn't able to watch. And so when I think about balance and that type of balance, then you look at your life, and even though you feel like your life is crazy, no, actually, I think I'm pretty balanced compared to my.
Right. I know. Gosh, Emily, it's so true. I also love the word. I've started using this. I probably stole it from someone off to Instagram because let's get real. But um harmony. Somebody said this where like, let's not think of this as balance, but more of like this work life family harmony that you're
Mhm.
trying to create in your life. And I was like, yes.
Yeah,
that
that's a
that
good
I can
one.
get down with. Like
Yeah,
that I'm like, okay.
yeah, yeah. Our lives are much more harmonious than our parents, that's for sure.
Oh, 100%. Yes, yes. Okay, let's play rapid fire and we're going to wrap this up. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. So, I only have 4 little questions.
Okay.
What is one word now that you've asked your team to best describe your leadership style?
I think looking back on everything that they said, I think it comes down to when I think about it being appreciative. And
Mm,
every time I just appreciate my team so much. And every time that I leave a chair, I try to say thank you, both to the parent or patient that's sitting there and to my team member. So I always try to, I think my team will agree to, think of ways that I can show that I appreciate them,
yeah.
because I couldn't do what I do without them. And they are the ones that make my day go smoother. And they're the ones that help me, do this whole operation. So
Yeah.
that's what I would
Oh,
say.
I love it. I love it. What is the most underrated lesson from your parents' journey?
The most underrated lesson. I'm going to glance down. You can edit this part out. Oh, yes. Okay, this is a good one. I think ask me that again, Cassie.
Okay, ready?
Yeah.
What's the most underrated lesson from your parents' journey?
Okay. The most underrated lesson has to do with what I would call the ripple effect. And how there's this quote that I've said, never underestimate the difference. If you ever underestimate the difference that you can make, you've never spent the night with a mosquito or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah. If something along those lines, like, a mosquito is pretty tiny, but boy,
oh,
did it have a large effect. And that
totally.
has to do with these two ladies. Okay. They're the reason that I'm even sitting here in front of you today. Two ladies from the First Mennonite Church in Bern, and their names are Marge Habegger and Maggie Lichty, went to their pastor and saw these stories on the news and said, we would like to make a difference. We want to help. And the pastor at the church said, okay, let's see what we can do. And it was through that my parents were able to come to the United States, which is just mind boggling to me. And through that, they formed different committees when my parents arrived to provide food and shelter and doctor's appointments and driving them to learn English and all of these little things. It blows my mind when I think about the fact that two people had a thought to want to help someone and how that can literally change the trajectory of someone's life and multiple people's lives after that, just from one decision to help. That is, I just like, that is so huge in my life now when I think about, things that I do or can do to help others. Like, that is a huge part of it, because there were so many people that helped my parents when they came here, and just that little, two people saying we
It's
want to
so
do that.
powerful. It's so powerful.
Yeah,
Oh,
it is just so wild. It really is.
okay. Something you're grateful for today.
Oh boy, I mean, my parents, my family, um, my team, this life that I get to have. It's overwhelmingly, I just feel so blessed.
When you have moments with your family, do you reflect in those sometimes, maybe at the end or later, or alone in your car listening to some crazy sad song or happy song, or, something that takes you back? Do you have reflection where you go, whoa?
I mean, I feel like especially through writing the book and reflecting on my parents' entire journey and all of the little things that, we didn't even get a touch on, the things that happened to them.
Yes.
I, yeah, I mean, like I said, every day I just think about my dad's statement that it's a miracle that we're here, that I'm here. And yeah, it just makes you so appreciative the whole day.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay, last one. A habit or a mindset that helps you start the day strong.
I These are non-negotiables for
Okay.
me.
Love it.
So it doesn't matter if I mean, my husband and I were just on our anniversary trip, and no
Hmm.
matter where I am in the world, I still wake up at 4:30 a.m.
You do.
I I can't. The thing is the part that people don't see as a business owner,
Oh, yes.
and I think about some, maybe you can edit this out, Cassie, but When we talk about like guys,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like some guys are like, oh, it's so easy. Like, I'm just going to shut this off and I'm just not going to do this. You know, it's easier, I feel like, for guys to do that because as women, we are, we're in charge of the schedule. We're in charge of all the paperwork that comes home from school.
Yep.
We're in charge of signing the kids up for this and signing them up for that and making sure that they get here and making sure they get there. And then on top of that, all of the work that you have for cases that you have to do for your patients. And so my little thing is no matter where I am, I have to have that time in the morning to know that there's something that I can get done and go, okay, I did something for the day and now I can go enjoy the rest of my day. So every morning I start 4:30. I get, you know, if I'm on vacation, I might, now I still try to get a couple hours. and then I work out and then I'm ready for my day. I tried to not, like, I'll try, but as women, the thing is that you can't turn off your brain.
No.
And so it's like, well, I can either try to sleep in and then wake up and feel like I didn't get anything done and then feel like I can't enjoy myself, or I can just get up, get it done, and then, okay, let's enjoy our day.
I love this. We're not cutting it because so many people can relate to this on so many different levels as a woman. As a woman who is managing all the things, you know, I talk about this with Dr. Maggie Law in one of my very first episodes, being a mother and being a business owner and having a family. And by the way, I want to make this very clear to my own husband. I have to have control over some of these things. Like, you know, it's my own fault. You know, I make the appointments and I do the things and I'm filling out. My husband filled out a permission slip for a field trip the other day. My mouth dropped. He's standing next to me. I go, "Oh, you filled it out." I had like this judgy tone. I was like, "Oh." You filled it out. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh. And in my mind, this is in my crazy brain, I thought, well, is he going to put it in the calendar? Because how am I going to remember if there's a field trip?
Oh my gosh, Cassie.
I was like, okay. And I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to be like, I could have filled that out, even though I'm like, I need, you know, it's all the things. It's a double-edged sword. And I was like, oh, okay, here. I was like, oh, okay, well, will you put it in the calendar? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, actually, I don't have any meetings that day. Maybe I'll volunteer, you know. But all these things in a matter of 0.2 seconds went through my head because he filled out the field trip permission slip.
I feel that so much. Did you get the skylight calendar, by the way?
Okay, we need to talk about this. By the way, I wish this were like an ad for skylight, but no, my neighbor just got the skylight and we were at book club, okay? And I was like, oh, I walked by, I go, you got a skylight? She goes, I did. And I was like, so then I got to play with it and I'm like, I'm getting it. It's actually been in my cart and I have not done it. And I don't know why. Did you get it?
Oh, I had this last winter. I messaged my best friends because I had taken my daughter. Okay. She was on a travel volleyball team.
Okay.
And I had the address in my phone and, you know, the coach had sent a message that actually the location had changed and I apparently didn't change it in my phone. So I took my family to the wrong place and there's no one there when we arrive. And I messaged my friends and I'm just like, you guys, I cannot do this. Like, I can't keep track of the school calendar and then the sports calendars and then my calendar. I mean, it's so much, like, I can't do this. And they all replied, like, do you have a skylight calendar? You need to get a skylight calendar. And so I ordered one that day. And we all joke because my husband, God love him, and he is my husband. He cooks for us and he does all the maintenance things, and
Yep.
he takes wonderful care of us.
Yep.
But that dang calendar, it just gets them. It really does. And all my friends that I talk to about it, same thing. Like, we
Real.
live and die on this calendar. And my best friend said to me, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. And so
it's not real.
So I cannot tell you the number of times that I have, and I think my husband actually gets it now, because recently we had to go through this thing, and it was like, we had a miscommunication about whatever was going on. And my question was, did you look at the calendar? My husband's like, no, I didn't look at the calendar. And you're like, okay, I'm going to try and stay calm.
Right.
And then a couple of days pass, and then you have a different conversation. But then your question is, did you look at the calendar? Yes. And then it's like, no, I didn't look at the calendar. And then I said, I'm going to try and say this. I am not meaning to sound crappy. I just need you to look at the calendar every day, or if you want to do something, it needs to go on the calendar, so I know. Otherwise, like my friend says, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. If my husband would have filled out that permission slip and I didn't see it, I would have had no idea to dress my son in his first grade t-shirt to go.
That's why you need the skylight calendar, because you need a picture of it. Because then you have to give your husband 2 steps. It's first, you feel great. Thank you so much for filling out the permission slip. So appreciate that. And then step 2 is you have to take a picture of the permission slip and send it to the skylight calendar.
Done.
And if you want to add a step 3, it's edit the notes so that you have those little things like that.
Mm-hmm. We'll be doing step 3. Don't worry. Come on. I live in a sauna. You think I tried to set up a sauna for my husband? He's like, you've gone too far.
I make my husband asanas. I do. Yes. And also in the skylight calendar,
I love you.
There's a to-do list. You can also have a to-do list assigned to a specific person. So
love it.
Now he tells me I haven't looked at Asana in a while. So that's why if there's something in there, I tell him, please look at Asana.
Yeah. I love it. I love this so much. Oh gosh, I can relate on so many different levels. Emily, everyone, this book comes out today. Roots of Resilience, Lessons in Courage, Family, and the Power of Showing Up Every Day. Dr. Emily Taing Watson, you are simply the best. And I can't thank you enough for sharing this story, for allowing me to read this, for doing this podcast with me. Everyone can find this on Amazon, and I will be sure to add all kinds of links to this podcast. It is such a powerful story. We didn't even get into, which I'm really glad actually, because I want people to read it, but your parents' journey on how they got here, the jungle, the darkness, your trip back to Cambodia. I mean, it's so powerful, Emily. Truly, thank you so much for spending the time with me and sharing this story.
No, thank you, Cassie, for everything that you've done to help us with Asana, for letting me share this story. And you have been wonderful. So thank you. I appreciate you.
Gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much. I will add live links. So those of you listening to this, click on it, order this book. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. And especially if you're in orthodontics, you can relate so much. Emily, thank you so much for joining me.
Cassie.
Thank you for joining me on The Bloom Effect, where we keep it real, keep it growing, and always keep it team first. If today's episode sparked something for you, an idea, a shift, or just a reminder that you're not alone, take a second and share it with your team or a fellow ortho leader. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss a convo, and if you're loving the show, leave a review. It helps more practices find us and join the movement. And if you're ready to bring this kind of energy into your practice, visit discovereverbloom.com to learn more about working together. Until next time, keep leading with heart, keep building with intention, and keep blooming right where you're planted.